Alright guys, today I watched this video by Dan Does Dev, and we're talking about why gamers or video game developers hate Godot. The problem with jobs, why you cannot get a very big title for Godot usually, it's because of three things. First, most of companies already have an assets and frameworks done in Unity and Unreal because they worked over the years in these actual engines. So like in my company, we usually use Unity because we have a full dialogue systems, full multilingual support, full very big assets for both 2D and 3D games. We're talking about hundred of gigabytes just of custom made assets that we did over the years just for Unity and Unreal. So we cannot go and do a switch for a Godot without losing and sacrificing all the assets we've already done. So that's why we usually don't switch to Godot. And second-handly, because unfortunately, yes, Godot is a very amazing engine. It's an amazing tool to use. But to be honest, if you are working in very big project, we're talking a very commercial project, like when you're searching for a job, they usually are. Godot are not usually used just because of not many people knowing it, and it's still maturing. It's an amazing engine, you can make games in it, but it's still maturing and lacks a lot of features that the company might need. So that's why, because they do not care if they give revenue share or give a subscription for Unity or buy the seat in Unreal, as much as they care about the quality and actually finding someone that really knows to work on the platform.
Godot is by far my favorite game engine, but it's almost impossible to find any companies hiring Godot developers. Even the 14 search results you see here weren't Godot specific roles, they just happened to mention Godot in the description. So why is this? If Godot is such a beloved and capable engine, why aren't more companies using it? Let's dive in. That was lame. The first reason I think Godot gets overlooked is a lack of adoption. Compared to more established engines like Unreal and Unity, Godot is still very new, and some might say unproven. A lot of companies are
because it's not only community assets or community guides or community support for it, or it's just being new. It's more of, because it's new, there's no much companies that started with it, and most game dev companies have been established in a very old years, not really the newest thing, especially because just at Godot 4 you were like really able to make a very good, to be honest, a commercial game in Godot. Beforehand, it might be a bit difficult and need a lot of tweaking that companies don't really want to get involved in. So that's why multiple companies just don't use Godot, because they were created before the existence of it.
Understandably resistant to new technology, especially when it's something major like an engine. An engine is the beating heart of your game, and once you've committed to one, it's extremely difficult.
And by the way, there is even companies like they just don't use the either Godot, Unity, or Unreal. They sometimes just make their own custom game engine. So it's sometimes know of the other option and they stick with their engine just because of most of their games, most of the support is in that engine.
Change your mind. Put simply, it's a risk, and it's one that few companies are willing to take. Unfortunately, this creates a bit of a vicious cycle. Not many companies using Godot, which means that companies see Godot as risky, and therefore companies choose not to use it, which means that not many companies are using Godot. Tangled up in all of this is another problem.
The only way that people start using Godot is if new indie titles is published due to Godot being used, and these indie titles become so successful that that the individual that made this indie title are interested in making a company, so he started using Godot in his company, and this happens for like 4 or 5 people, and their own companies start hiring people, and maybe very little amount of new established new established game companies or old established industries that use different sections, maybe they start adopting Godot more.
It relates to hiring. Not many people have professional experience with Godot. Companies choose not to use Godot because of hiring concerns, so Godot developers don't get hired. Secondly, I think Godot gets dismissed due to a lack of maturity. We've already established that Godot is a relatively new engine, but does that mean that it lacks some of the features of more established engines? As much as I love Godot, unfortunately I have to say yes.
Yeah,
While
that's
I believe
definitely right. You can even tell from the GUI design of the engine, it's more up to the really standardized custom engine UI design, UX design. It does not really look and feel when you use Unity or Unreal or a very professionally custom-made engine from a AAA company. The engine is still maturing, still advancing. Even shader compilation had very problematic problems in the past year, or I think so, like many people talked about it. So multiple major features has just been implemented or need to be implemented beforehand. So that's what we are talking about. Yeah, Godot is a very amazing game engine, but are you gonna just use it? Because I know many people talk about open source, and I understand open source is a very amazing thing to have, especially if you are an already new game industry studio. But you're gonna in the end pay someone a revenue share or a percentage, whether you like it or not, or make a subscription. If it was not Unity, maybe WYs, maybe an asset you are using, a very big production publisher company, so you're gonna pay a rev share whether you like it or not. Even in Steam you're gonna pay 30%. So yeah, do you really matter to you what's the percentage Unity and Unreal gonna take? And I know many people switched because of the drama with Unity happened before this before the CEO that they had, but why not using Unreal then? So maybe some people would want to make 2D games, which I do understand that, but why not sticking with Unity? Most people did the shift because they can, but companies can't do the shift without losing their entire asset library and entire experienced developers, so that's why they usually don't do the switch.
Godot to be an incredible engine, it is still evolving, and it may lack some features that AAA developers have come to expect. Here are a few examples. It's worth noting that many of these are advanced features that would typically only be required for high-budget games or those striving.
Again, multiple indie titles are being developed in Godot. It's just the big titles that these things are so much required, by the way, that they don't have.
Realistic graphics. Also, some of these features exist already as third-party plugins or are currently in development. The final concern that I want to raise is a lack of security. Here I'm talking not about the security of the end users, but the security of the developers themselves and their intellectual property. I was shocked to learn that Godot projects are trivially easy to reverse engineer. You can download a shipped game, run it through an external program, and it will spit out all the assets, source code, and project files for you to freely access, edit, and recompile as you see fit. This is extremely concerning for a number of
very big AAA titles, not for indie developers. They're not gonna care to really crack it and reverse engineer it and resell it, maybe, or do something like that. For AAA titles, they try to have to like fight cracking as hard as possible. They always try to find the best solution for their game to be very hard to reverse engineer. Look at Red Dead Redemption 2 when it first been launched on PC. It's just like sometimes they just don't want it to be cracked the first time it's initially released, so it's a very big problem for Godot.
Reasons.
They might do their own custom solution, but usually they've already done it in another engine, or maybe it's for AA title, not AAA title, very hard to do.
Not the least of which is property theft. Just watch this video about the game Diapers Please, which was stolen, repackaged, and resold without permission, netting the thieves thousands of dollars. This issue has been discussed at length in the Godot community, with the response ranging from concern to nonchalance. Some people in the community seem to conflate security with DRM, which to many is a distasteful subject. As commenter Dale Zeev said, you can try some third-party tools to protect your code, DRM. Creating such tools is a difficult and ethically controversial goal for an open source project. Others have tried to sweep the problem under the rug by saying, essentially, don't worry about it. As Is responded on Reddit, presumably these people never lock their doors or windows when they go out. CG...
Yeah, but again, even if you don't worry about it, if your game was like just a passion project and stuff like that, and you don't really care about revenue, if you want people to hire you or start using Godot in their companies, they're not gonna use it if it had a security issue. So you're not gonna ever be hired in Godot if Godot didn't fix such stuff. And I think as a community, you really need to push an LTS or something release, a real release of Godot, maybe Godot 2 or something that fix all the major issues here, because no big company gonna use it if they are still on their like current base until maybe Godot 6 or something like that. So if you want to really have the time as your own variable, you need to push on the Godot developers as possible. Donate for them, do whatever you can.
Casper summarized the issue well when they said, "This is not about preventing modders or hackers from changing my game. This is about not giving away my original source code in unmodified form."
Yeah, because it's not about just people reverse engineering it and publishing it as a crack. Sometimes people just gonna steal your own frameworks and systems that you took a couple of years in just developing them and use them in their own company. So your every asset library is now unusable.
This is about not having the feeling that I could have made my project open source to begin with. This is about the bare minimum of protection that I would expect and get from any other engine. I'll save the conversation about DRM for another time, but suffice to say, this is a complicated issue, and unfortunately, there's no easy solution. I've talked about 3 possible reasons why companies aren't using Godot: a lack of adoption, a lack of maturity, and a lack of security. Maybe you can think of others, but these are just what I've gathered from my own personal research. But how much do these reasons matter, really? Are these concerns justified? Essentially, this is a problem of risk, or perceived risk, versus reward. To someone who's never used Godot, it may seem...
to companies, there's no reward. Unfortunately, that's the real thing. Open source, really, they would never care to buy a rev share or a seat for Unreal Engine. That's what people don't really know about. These expenses are nothing if you compare it to the legal expenses, the music expenses, and the production of the game. That's what people don't understand about very big companies. Open source don't really matter to them, and if they really want, they can make their own custom engine. It's just a matter of they use it for a very long time. Their whole asset library is dependent on it.
Like a risky choice. Learning an engine can be a very daunting and time-consuming process, but Godot has some of the best documentation that I've ever seen, and it's been meticulously designed from the ground up to be as simple.
Again, it's an amazing thing for indie developers, but for bigger titles, bigger companies, they can just hire a professional. Why would they fucking care about the documentation?
And as intuitive as possible.
It's amazing, by the way, for indie devs, for people who love try stuff, Godot is amazing. You can make video games, amazing commercial even video games in Godot. It's just why jobs would be very hard to get in Godot game engines, just because it does not, the change does not profit the companies as much as we think of their current pipeline. Which, by the way, I completely disagree with the current pipeline that the AAA industry does, and I think it needs to be updated because it's a very old pipeline, very budget-consuming pipeline, and we are seeing many people can break through this pipeline, like Expedition 33 and stuff like that. So, but the current situation, the realistic situation, it's the benefits of Godot, yet there are a lot, and it's an open source game engine. Companies will not bother themselves to use it.
I firmly believe that a talented developer can turn their hand to any tool. A strong knowledge of the fundamentals of programming is so much more valuable than knowledge of a particular engine. Of course, experience is valuable too, especially with an engine like Unreal, which is rife with pitfalls and esoteric problems that almost seem designed to trip up new developers. But I can almost guarantee that a talented developer could pick up Godot in a matter of days. And for many, I think they'd quickly become far more productive than they would be in a more complicated engine. As for the hiring concerns, it's true that not many people have professional Godot experience, but the engine is extremely popular with hobbyist developers, many of whom will have excellent portfolios, and there are so few Godot jobs out there that employers will no doubt have their pick of the crop. I would also like to challenge the view that Godot is unproven by calling out some brilliant examples of games made in Godot. And for lots more examples, check out the channel Stay at Home Dev, who regularly showcases new and upcoming games made in Godot. While Godot may lack some advanced features, the engine is evolving all the time, and it's completely open source. So
yeah, because if you are just trying to learn game dev and you want something to learn for the future, Godot might be an amazing option. Learning Godot could really be some of the future of game dev industry, so learning it is not a bad thing, but it's about people that worked in the industry for a long time. Do the switch to Godot really matter? You can learn. I've learned the engine like in a side way, like doing my own personal projects in it, but you cannot change your full career just to Godot if you've spent over 6 years maybe or stuff like that in other engines. So especially if were like doing coding or a very specific engine related major in game development.
Free to implement any missing features themselves. It might sound like a cop-out to say, go make it yourself, a company with an in-house engine has to do already. And I've never worked on an Unreal project that didn't require engine changes. Plus, Godot has hundreds of free plugins available.
Of course, yeah. They fully use custom frameworks and tools for Unity and Unreal. They change a lot in the engine that they use. It's just because it's cheaper to do that than doing their own game engine, their own custom game engine, which is the best, by the way, the best option. But sometimes they just don't bother because of their asset library, as we mentioned before. And this is something he's showing is pretty important. Pre-made assets for Unity, for AA titles, and Unreal are better than the Godot current asset library that not they have like in their company, but that is published online for the people.
To fill some of the gaps in the core engine. As for the problem of security, this isn't unique to Godot. And while it's true that Godot projects are easier to reverse engineer than those made in other engines, there are third-party tools that can obfuscate your code, and mechanisms such as compile-time encryption are available, which, while not foolproof, may be enough to deter amateur would-be thieves. Earlier, I said that the choice of engine is a question of risk versus reward. In some ways, any engine is a risk. From what I've seen, UE5 doesn't exactly have a great reputation for being stable and performant.
Yeah,
And
like for Unreal, it got a really bad turn when they just did Unreal Engine 4 and 5. It was pretty bad because anyone could have made a very good looking graphic game, but it's just a very bad designed game, and just do a very amazing trailer and screenshots for Steam. The game looks professional, but when you play it, it's a very sloppy game. So Unreal got up like a very bad reputation because of this. Like people thought most of video games made in Unreal like this. There's of course expectations like Exposition 33 and stuff like that. But yeah, every engine have its own downsides. Today we're just talking about the Godot one. There's no perfect engine, unfortunately.
Unity famously sparked a mass exodus when they tried to introduce some controversial pricing strategies just 2 years ago. Sure, Godot may be a risk, but in my humble opinion, it's also a reward in itself. So, what does all this mean for the future of Godot? Are we just doomed to live in a world dominated by crusty, bloated engines like Unreal? Personally, I don't think so. Godot is becoming more and more popular all the time, and it's easy
because Unreal lacks one of the biggest other industry standardized video game genre, which are 2D games. Unreal tried to compete in that matter, but they failed. Unreal is definitely just for 3D games. Usual 2D games are codable in both Unity and like Godot, because it sucks in Unreal. So not just every engine have its own downside. Again, Unreal, which is a very amazing engine, yet it sucks a lot at doing 2D games rather than like Unity and Godot. So it's a matter of perspective of your company and what's their decision gonna be for their video games.
See why. It's an extremely elegant, lightweight, and capable engine, and frankly, it's an absolute joy to use. Time and time again, we're seeing that simple games made by small, passionate teams are achieving enormous success, and I believe that Godot is the perfect fit for projects like these. And best of all, it's completely free to use. I sincerely hope that more and more companies start using Godot in the future, and I believe there will be a tipping point where lack of adoption ceases to be a concern. And when that day comes, I'll be ready.
Again, a very amazing video by Dan.dev. Definitely go and check out his channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.